The abandons opening. Wait. You're telling me the council just abandoned us? Commander Alex Koslov felt his jaw drop as he stared at the holographic message floating above the command console. Not just abandoned, sir. They've declared Earth a non-essential member world and have officially revoked our status in the Galactic Union, Lieutenant Mills replied, his usually composed demeanor cracking under the weight of the news. Alex ran a hand through his salt and pepper hair, the lines on his weathered face deepening. After everything we've contributed, after all the damn resources we've poured into their coffers, after we literally saved their scaly asses from the Vidian incursion last cycle. Yes, sir. The message states that due to our primitive technological development and evolving militaristic trends, we're being cut loose. The Arcturan blockade around our system will remain in place. We're on our own. Mills swallowed hard. Well, isn't that just spectacularly convenient for them? Lex muttered, feeling the familiar burn of anger rising in his chest. Right when the Shard Collective is breathing down our necks. Perfect timing. The bridge of the EDF Intrepid fell silent. Alex could feel the eyes of his crew on him, waiting for him to say something, anything that might make sense of this betrayal. The thing about humans, though, we don't take kindly to being abandoned. And we're a lot less primitive than the Council thinks. Where decisions are Medeth Galactic Council's central chamber was a marvel of engineering, a massive spherical room with thousands of hovering platforms arranged in concentric rings around a central dais. It was designed to accommodate representatives from over 600 species, from the 15-foot towering Grandar to the microscopic hive minds of the Bush Collective, who required specialized environmental capsules just to be seen by the other delegates. High Arbiter Voxel of the Satari stood at the central podium, his 4 secondary arms gesturing expressively, while his primary limbs remained folded in a posture of supreme confidence. And thus, by unanimous decree of the Inner Circle, we have severed ties with the Earth domain. Voxel's voice boomed through the chamber. Their quarantine will continue indefinitely, and all trade routes have been permanently diverted. The humans and their aggressive expansion will no longer be our concern. A ripple of approval passed through the assembly. Ambassador Devra of the Luminoth rose on his platform, the bioluminescent patterns on his skin flashing in what passed for smug satisfaction among his kind. And what of the human delegates? Devra inquired, his voice a melodious series of tones. Have they been informed of their denouncement? Voxel's face slits expanded in what passed for a smile among the Satari. They were escorted from Council space 12 cycles ago. No doubt they are currently en route to their isolated little world, bearing the unfortunate news. Another ripple of amusement passed through the chamber. And the humans' petition regarding the Shard Collective activity on their borders? Asked Mira Vital of the Solari Confederation, one of the few voices that had occasionally advocated for the humans. Denied, of course. Voxel dismissed dismissively. The collective has assured us that their interest in the Sol system is purely scientific. And frankly, even if it wasn't, he let the implication hang in the air. Even if it wasn't, what did it matter? What happened to a primitive species on the galactic fringe? Now, we move to more pressing matters, Voxel continued, consulting his data slate. The Juxer delegation has requested additional subsidies for their deuterium mining operations in The interruption came not as a sound, but as a feeling, a deep, bone-rattling vibration that seemed to emanate from everywhere at once. The massive crystal dome that topped the council chamber darkened, as if a cloud had passed overhead, except they were in space. There were no clouds. Voxel frowned, his secondary arms twitching in irritation. Control. What is the meaning of this disturbance? The response never came. Instead, the entire eastern section of the dome shattered inward in a spectacular explosion of crystalline fragments. Emergency force fields snapped into place almost instantly, preventing catastrophic decompression, but the psychological damage was done. Panic erupted throughout the chamber as delegates from hundreds of worlds scrambled to comprehend what was happening. Through the breach, against the backdrop of stars, appeared a ship. No, not a ship, a fleet. Dozens, then hundreds of vessels materialized, dropping out of what appeared to be some form of TTL travel that the Council's sensors hadn't detected until it was far too late. They were sleek, angular craft with matte black hulls that seemed to drink in the light. Red accents glowed along their flanks like veins of molten metal. Ships that were unmistakably human in design, yet unlike any human vessels the Council had ever documented. "Impossible," Voxel whispered, his confidence evaporating. They don't have the technology to." A holographic projection suddenly dominated the center of the chamber, replacing the Council's own displays. A human male appeared, dressed in a sharp military uniform that was predominantly black with silver and red trim. Commander Alex Koslov stared out at the assembled representatives of the Galactic Council, his remarkably calm expression for someone who had just committed what amounted to an act of war. "Greetings, honorable delegates," Alex said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Sorry about the dramatic entrance, but my meeting invitation seems to have gotten lost in the mail. Bureaucracy, am I right?" 3 months prior, the truth unveiled 3 standard months earlier, Alex sat in his cramped office aboard the Mars orbital defense platform, staring at his terminal with growing disbelief. "This can't be right." He frantically scrolled through the data again. "These energy signatures don't match anything in our databases." Dr. Eliza Novak, chief of Xenotechnology Research, leaned over his shoulder. "That's because they're not supposed to exist, at least not according to the technological development timeline the Council gave us." Alex shot her a meaningful look. "Meaning?" Eliza said, softening her voice despite the fact that they were alone. "That the Council has been holding out on us big time." The commander let out a long, slow breath. The data was unambiguous. The supposed Council supply ships that passed through Earth's solar system carried energy signatures that suggested propulsion systems far more advanced than anything they'd shared with humanity. According to their official technological exchange program, we're scheduled to receive gravitic propulsion designs in approximately, Eliza checked her notes, 53 years. Yet every single one of their ships is already using a version at least 3 generations more advanced than what they've promised us. "And we're just noting this now?" Alex asked, his voice tight. Eliza's smile was thin. "We've suspected for a while, but they've been using masking fields to disguise their capabilities. It's only because of that mishap with the Satari diplomat shuttle last month that we got a clean reading on their systems." Alex leaned back in his chair, the implications sinking in. The Council had been quietly keeping Earth technologically dependent while extracting resources and military support. The treaty that had welcomed humanity into the galactic community 7 years ago had been nothing but a carefully constructed cage. "Who else knows about this?" "Just the Joint Chiefs and a handful of researchers," Eliza replied. "We've been compartmentalizing the information. If the Council found out we've broken their encryption protocols, they'd find some diplomatic excuse to put us in an even tighter box. Or worse." Alex finished for her. He suddenly decided, "Get me a secure line to Admiral Harada, and I want all the data we've collected on Council tech in the last 5 years compiled and sent to Project Prometheus." Eliza's eyes sharpened. "Prometheus? That's still experimental. We don't have time for caution, Doctor." Alex cut her off. "I have a feeling we're going to need every advantage we can get, and soon." He'd had no idea just how right he was. Present day. Council and Shas Council chamber. Present day. "I must say," Alex continued, addressing the stunned Council, "your security protocols are embarrassingly lax for a civilization that considers itself the pinnacle of galactic governance." Voxel finally found his voice. This is an outrage. An act of war. Security. Subdue this transmission and alert the defense fleet immediately." "About that defense fleet of yours." Alex made a show of checking his watch. "I believe they're currently engaged with the task force we sent to your primary shipyards in the Proxima Helios system. And by engaged, I mean watching helplessly as we dismantled their supposedly impenetrable orbital facilities." Pandemonium erupted in the Council chamber. Delegates were shouting, demanding explanations, or simply fleeing their platforms in terror. "Oh, and before your communications officers waste their time, Yes, we've already neutralized your quantum relay network within this sector. You're isolated. Just like you left us. Ambassador Mira Vital managed to override the chamber's chaotic communications grid. Commander, please. Whatever grievances Earth may have, this cannot be the solution. There are diplomatic channels. The same diplomatic channels that declared us expendable. Alex interrupted, his calm facade slightly cracked. The same channels that left us to face the Shard Collective alone? Those channels? The Collective posed no verified threat. Voxel insisted, although his confident posture had collapsed into something more defensive. They merely expressed scientific interest in your system's unusual properties. Scientific interest? Alex repeated flatly. Is that what you call it when they harvested 3 of Neptune's moons? When they established weapons platforms in the Kuiper Belt? When they began systematic extermination of our outer colonies? A hush fell over the chamber. You repelled Shard incursions? Devra of the Luminov asked, his bioluminescence pulsing with what appeared to be genuine shock. That's not possible. No single species has ever. We did what we had to, Alex said grimly. No thanks to you. And in the process, we made some interesting discoveries. Like how the Collective's neural architecture is based on technology suspiciously similar to Satari designs. His gaze locked onto Voxel, almost as if someone had been feeding them advanced tech. Curious, isn't it? Voxel's skin paled to an ashen gray, his exoskeleton trembling visibly. These are baseless accusations. The Satari will never. Alex cut him off. We found the transmission logs. We know about the backdoor deals. We know that you deliberately set us up as a buffer zone to keep the Collective occupied while you negotiated with them. A little sacrificial lamb to appease the wolves at your door. He leaned forward, and the hologram seemed to loom larger over the chamber. But here's the funny thing about humans, Arbiter. We don't sacrifice. Well, and we have very long memories. 2 months prior, Prometheus reborn 2 standard months earlier. The hangar bay of the Prometheus complex stretched nearly a kilometer beneath the lunar surface, hidden from both Earth and Council observation satellites. Within it stood the first fruits of humanity's greatest technological leap, a prototype fleet that, according to the Council's carefully controlled technology exchange program, should have been impossible to exist. Admiral Hirata walked alongside Alex as they observed the final preparations, her weathered face set in grim determination. Reverse engineering their tech wasn't easy, she remarked. If Dr. Novak's team hadn't cracked their encryption, we'd still be puttering around in chemical rockets while they bled us dry. All done, Alex finished. How combat ready are they? The first wave is fully operational. Gravitic propulsion, phase shields, and the new Razor weapon systems, all tested at 94% efficiency, or better. Pride crept into her voice. We've even made some improvements they haven't thought of. And the FTTL drives. Hirata's smile was sharp enough to cut. That's where things get interesting. You know how the Council insisted that humans lack the neurological capacity to navigate proper faster than light travel? That we'd need at least another century of guided evolution before we could handle the cognitive strain? Alex nodded. It had been one of the Council's favorite justifications for keeping Earth isolated and dependent. Turns out that was a lie too. We not only adapted to their navigation systems, we improved them. Our test pilots can plot jumps with 30% greater accuracy and maintain the neural interface for twice as long as the Council standard. They stopped in front of the flagship, a massive vessel bristling with weapon systems cleverly disguised as communications arrays and scientific instruments. Its name was emblazoned on the hull: EDF Reckoning. How long until the fleet is ready? Alex asked, already calculating potential scenarios. That's the other bit of news, Hirata replied, her expression darkening. We've lost contact with our outpost on Pluto, complete communications blackout. And our long-range sensors have detected multiple Shard vessels entering the solar system. Alex's jaw tightened. They're not wasting any time, no? And neither can we. Hirata handed him a datapad. Congratulations, Commander. You've just been promoted to Admiral. The reckoning is yours. He stared at her. What about you? Someone needs to coordinate Earth's ground defenses if things go south, she said matter-of-factly. Besides, the council knows my face. You're still relatively unknown to them, which gives us an element of surprise. Alex took the pad, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. And my orders? Officially, defend Earth and its colonies by any necessary means? Hirata's eyes gleamed with the fierce light. Unofficially, but the council regret ever thinking of humanity as expendable. Present day. Power shifts council chamber. Present day. Let me be absolutely clear, Alex continued, addressing the disheartened council delegates. We know exactly what you've done. We know about the technology you've withheld. We know about your deals with the Shard Collective. We know that you've been manipulating primitive species across 3 sectors, setting them against each other to keep them weak and dependent. He leaned back in his command chair, the hologram shifting to show the Bridge of the Reckoning, where officers moved with precision around him, coordinating the fleet movements. But most importantly, we know about Protocol Ascension. The words hit the chamber like a physical blow. Several delegates gasped audibly. Others froze in place, as if hoping stillness might somehow protect them from what was coming. That's right, Alex nodded, satisfied by their reaction. Your little secret project to achieve technological singularity by harvesting the neural patterns of expendable species, uploading entire populations into processing matrices to fuel your ascension to a higher plane of existence. He pulled up a holographic document, a classified council directive that authorized the neural harvesting of 17 species considered evolutionarily stagnant. Earth had been 18th on the list. Did you really think we wouldn't find out? That we'd just quietly wait our turn for extinction? Voxel had gone from ashen to almost translucent, his exoskeleton trembling visibly. These are internal security matters of the highest classification. How could you possibly? We had help, Alex interrupted. Turns out not everyone in your precious council agrees with echoing sentient beings for your ascension fantasy. Ambassador Mira Vital straightened on her platform, and several security drones immediately surrounded her. Stand down, she ordered the drones, her voice steady despite the weapons trained on her. It's too late, anyway. She turned to address the chamber. I provided the humans with the evidence. I, and others like me, who remember what the council was supposed to stand for: unity, progress, and protection for all sentient life, not just those considered worthy by the inner circle. Chaos erupted again as accusations flew between different factions. Alex let it continue for a moment before raising his hand for silence. We're not here for revenge, he said, and the chamber slowly quieted, hanging on his every word. I won't pretend many of us wouldn't enjoy it. We're here to end a threat and establish a new order. He rose from his chair, the camera following him as he walked to the front of his bridge. As we speak, human forces are securing key strategic locations throughout council space, the Satari shipyards, the relay network, and most importantly, the Ascension complex on Proxima Centauri B, where your neural harvesting program was headquartered. Displays around the council chamber suddenly lit up with live feeds, showing human ships and troops taking control of these facilities with surgical precision. How is this possible? Devra demanded, his bioluminescence flickering erratically. Your technology shouldn't be capable of, because you told us it wasn't, Alex finished for him. Here's a lesson about humans you might want to write down for future reference. Telling us we can't do something is the fastest way to ensure we absolutely will. He paced across his bridge. You absorbed the implications. We reverse-engineered every piece of tech you ever showed us. We improved upon designs you thought were perfect. And we did it all while you thought we were obediently mining helium-3 for your pleasure cruisers. What are your demands? Voxel finally asked, his voice barely audible. Alex smiled, but there was no warmth in it. First, the immediate dissolution of the current council structure. Second, the public disclosure of Protocol Ascension and all related projects. Third, the establishment of a new governing body with equal representation for all species, regardless of technological development level. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. And finally, a formal acknowledgement of the crimes committed against Earth, and the 16 other species targeted for neural harvesting along with appropriate reparations. And if we refuse? One bold delegate called out. Alex's expression hardened. Then we finish what we started. Our fleet completely surrounds this station. Your defenses are down. Your communications are cut off. And unlike you, we don't make empty threats. A tense silence filled the chamber. You have 1 standard hour to decide, Alex concluded. Choose wisely. 1 week later, a new Orderon standard week later, the new Interstellar Concord held its first session, not in the ostentatious council chamber, which now lay in ruins, but in a simple circular hall, hastily constructed in neutral territory. Representatives from all former council worlds were present, along with delegates from previously excluded primitive species who had suffered under the old regime. Alex stood at the back of the Earth delegation, watching as the proceedings began. Ambassador Robert Walsh, a seasoned diplomat who had been recalled from retirement, led the human contingency. Quite a difference from the old setup, commented Lieutenant Mills, who stood beside him. No floating platforms, no species segregation. Just equals at a table. That was the point, Alex replied quietly. Hard to consider yourself superior when you're sitting at the same level as everyone else. The first order of business was the official disbandment of the Inner Circle, the secretive cabal of advanced species that had truly ruled the council from the shadows. Their assets were being redistributed to fund reparations for the worlds they had exploited. Voxel and several other former council leaders were notably absent, currently detained and awaiting trial for their roles in Protocol Ascension. You know, they're calling you the Harbinger out, Mills said, nodding toward the assembled delegates. The alien media has gone wild with it. Half of them think you're some kind of avenging demon. The other half see you as a liberator. Alex snorted. I'm just a soldier who followed orders. Nothing more. Sir, with all due respect, you led the fleet that brought down a galactic government that had stood for over 2,000 years. Just a soldier doesn't quite cover it. Before Alex could respond, the chamber doors opened to admit a late arrival. Mira of the Tall, still wearing the formal robes of a Solari ambassador, despite having been officially stripped of her title by her government for her treasonous aid to humanity. She spotted Alex across the room and made her way over, drawing curious and sometimes hostile glances from other delegates. Admiral Koslov, she greeted him with a slight bow. I wasn't certain you would be here. Just Commander now, actually, he corrected her. I've gone back to my previous rank. Admiral Hirata is resuming fleet command. Ah, surprisingly, no glory? Mira observed, with a knowing smile. Very human of you. Speaking of glory, Alex said, changing the subject. You took an enormous risk helping us. Your people have declared you a Rexani outcast, if I remember correctly. Was it worth it? The Solari woman's expression grew solemn. When I joined the diplomatic corps 300 years ago, I took an oath to uphold justice and protect the innocent. The council had strayed so far from its founding principles that I hardly recognized it anymore. She whispered, glancing around the chamber. This messy, chaotic, and uncertain as it is, feels more like what we should have been all along. Alex nodded, understanding perfectly. What will you do now? The Concord has offered me a position as an independent arbiter. Apparently, being declared a traitor by both sides gives me a unique fairness. Her smile returned, tinged with irony. And you? Will you return to Earth now that the immediate crisis has passed? He considered the question. Earth was safe for now. The Shard Collective had retreated to the far reaches of known space once their council backers had fallen. The immediate danger had passed, but the galaxy was changing rapidly. Power vacuums were forming. New alliances were taking shape, and humanity, for better or worse, had announced its presence on the galactic stage in the most dramatic way possible. No, he finally said. I've accepted a new assignment. The Reckoning and a small task force will be conducting diplomatic missions to the worlds that were targeted for neural harvesting. Many of them still don't know how close they came to extinction. A peace mission, then? Mira asked. Her tone suggested she knew better. Alexa's smile was grim. Let's call it insurance. The Concord is a good start. But power structures have a way of corrupting themselves if left unchecked. Someone needs to keep watch on the watchers. The chamber's communication system announced the beginning of the session, and delegates began moving toward their seats. "That's my cue," Gura said, preparing to leave. "Commander Koslov, before I go, there's something you should know. The Solari have a very old saying. Those who shatter the old order rarely survive to enjoy the new." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Is that a threat or a warning?" "Neither. Simply an observation from someone who has witnessed many regimes rise and fall." She studied him with those ancient, knowing eyes. "You've made powerful enemies. Not just the former leaders, but those who benefited from their rule. They will not forget what Council Earth has done." "Good," Alex replied, surprising her. "They shouldn't forget. Fear can be a powerful motivator for good behavior." Mira laughed then, a genuine, warm sound that drew startled looks from nearby delegates unaccustomed to such displays from the normally reserved Solari. "Oh, Commander? I see now why the ancient Satari texts warned of humans long before your species even achieved spaceflight. You truly are as they described. The fire that warms becomes the fire that consumes." She bowed once more and withdrew to take her place at the arbitration panel. Lieutenant Mills, who had been silent during the exchange, finally spoke. "Sir, what did she mean about Satari texts warning about humans? We only made first contact 7 years ago." Alex watched as the session began, as representatives from 100 worlds tried to forge a new path forward from the ashes of the old order. "It means, Lieutenant, that this galaxy is full of secrets, and we've only just started uncovering them." He straightened his uniform. "Come on, let's see what kind of new world we've helped create." As they took their seats among the Earth delegation, Alex couldn't help but think of the Solari saying, "Those who shatter the old order rarely survive to enjoy the new." Perhaps, but humanity had survived extinction at the hands of those who considered themselves gods. They had overcome technological sabotage and attempted genocide, and they had emerged not just intact, but stronger. Whatever came next, whatever enemies lurked in the shadows or plotted in distant star systems, Earth would be ready. After all, that's what humans do best: survive the impossible, adapt to the unthinkable, and emerge from the fire tempered rather than consumed. The galaxy had just learned this lesson the hard way. Alex doubted it would be the last time. Final log entry. Commander Alex Koslov, EDF Reckoning. Departure date: Galactic Standard Year, August 2157. They're calling it the Great Recalibration now. This messy, ongoing process of creating a more equitable galactic society from the ruins of the Council. 2 months in, and it's been exactly as chaotic as I predicted. The Concord is holding, barely. Some former Council worlds are cooperating fully. Others are dragging their feet, hoping this new order will collapse under its own weight. The 16 species that were targeted alongside Earth have formed a mutual defense pact called the Lazarus Coalition. Bit dramatic, but I suppose when you've narrowly avoided extinction, you're entitled to some theatrics. Ambassador Walsh reports that the trial of the former Inner Circle members will begin next month. The evidence is overwhelming, but I'm not naive enough to think justice is guaranteed. Too many powerful interests still have stakes in the old system. Meanwhile, the Reckoning and our task force depart tomorrow for the first of our diplomatic missions to the outer colonies. The official purpose is to establish relations with the worlds previously considered too primitive for Council contact. The unofficial purpose? Well, let's just say we're keeping our eyes open and our weapons hot. I received a personal message from Admiral Harada this morning. Apparently, some of the data we recovered from the Ascension Complex suggests that the Satari had indeed encountered humans before, or at least something very similar to humans thousands of years ago. Ancient records, mostly corrupted, but with enough intact to be disturbing. References to the shattered cradle, and the ones who return, could mean nothing, could mean everything. The thought that we might not be native to Earth, after all, that humanity might have a much longer, stranger history than we ever imagined. It's the kind of revelation that would have once shaken me to my core. But after everything we've seen, everything we've done, it just feels like one more mystery to solve. one more challenge to overcome. Because that's what we do. Humanity. Fuck. Yeah. Koslov out.